Well, we're back again, and I'm excited for another great episode with a dear friend of mine, and his name is Ken Abraham. He's got a great first name. You know, he and I we
Means handsome.
that's right, that's right. We can't forget that. But Ken Abraham is very world renowned in terms of a writer. You know, he's a New York Times best-selling author. And Ken, how many books have you written?
Wow. At this point, I'm sending the last one off here this afternoon. I think it's about 105.
That was not one of my questions. I just threw that one out. I was testing him there.
One of these days, I'm going to get a real job, maybe. But, yeah, not yet.
Wow, 105 books. Our topic is really exciting because both Ken and myself, we are people that are intentional, right? I mean, we look for things, and for me, that kind of all accumulated into a book for me. Going through going to an attorney, Ken, and finding out, okay, I got all these things figured out where things are going to go for my kids, right? And the will, and we should do a will. I mean, I think it's important. But when I stop and think about that trip back, which kind of leads into that song you just heard about U-turn, U-turn, U-turn. It was an epiphany in my own mind to say, is this it? I've given all these material things to my
Right.
kids,
Sure.
but what does that mean, and what does it matter?
Well, and sometimes you need to remind them too, Kenny, because
Yeah.
as you discovered in writing your book, and I know I did in writing the book that we were talking about previously, when your parent becomes your child, there were a lot of things that I remembered about my mom that my kids didn't even know, because the only grandma that they had seen during their teenage years and above was the one who had Alzheimer's dementia. And that wasn't the mom that I knew. And
Yeah.
so I needed to tell some of those stories of how what shaped her, what shaped our family, and how she prayed for my dad to come to know the Lord all those years, 38 years praying for my dad.
Yeah.
He was a drunk. He was not a good guy. He was a drunk. He owned the bar, and he drank a lot.
Yeah.
But she prayed and prayed and prayed until one day he met Jesus, and he didn't drink anymore.
What an amazing day that
It
was,
was.
right?
It really was. So my kids didn't know that, and
Yeah.
they didn't know a lot of those stories. The same as you have done in your book. Sharing that legacy that they have passed on to us is important for us to pass on to the next generation.
Absolutely. I went to a 2-year deep dive into going back into my family history. And it's so, Ancestry.com and I were friends for a good 2 years. And I found the amazing story, Ken, that my own 6-time great grandfather came from Germany. I had no idea.
Mm-hmm.
And came over he got the golden ticket. His parents were Lutherans. They were taking these Lutheran boys and basically sacrificing them because whatever king that would come and capture that land, and I don't know how many kings I read, but it was many, many, many that would take over by a battle. And some of these Lutheran boys, all they knew was singing songs and loving the Lord, and they're on the front lines.
Mm-hmm.
And so my grandfather and grandmother, 7 times great grandfather, they sent my 6-time great grandfather on a ship called Samuel, and he came to America. I had no idea, and that story transferred in my life because babies were born, people died on that trip. The captain said it was one of the worst trips he'd ever had. I looked through the logs, and yet he made it, into that port in Philadelphia. And then would go on, and then finding just that he really put God first in his life. But a lot of my forefathers after that became farmers, and they quit going to church, and like you said, some of them became alcoholics. And so I had this really weird genealogy of family, and that and then my grandfather finally accepted the Lord, and and his dad, and at a tent revival, and that's what brought our family back to Christ.
Saints and sinners, we all have them in our families, and we've all been them ourselves.
But I shared that now with my kids,
Yeah.
my grandkids, and my kids were very interested, but my grandkids, telling this at Christmas time, I was telling them these stories, and of course, I'd say, I got $1 if you can answer my questions, and but by the end, they were at the back of the room, and all my grandkids for Christmas, as I'm sharing these stories, and they're asking me a million questions. I had a few for them, but they had so many more about knowing about my 6-time great grandfather, and that they had a legacy.
Mhm. And you had to work to find that for them.
Oh
See,
yeah.
and there were things you didn't know. So if
Mm-mm.
you didn't know them, how much more our kids and
Yeah.
their kids, they're not going to know those things if we don't share them
No.
with the family.
And thank God I had a coach. If I'd run into problems, I'd go, "Hey, Ken, what do I do now? I'm too loquacious here, but I need to add stuff here." And he was so great and so kind, and he wrote a nice word here on the front cover, and
Hey, we all need editing sometime.
and he really did, and so and he's right, it's really to help you discover your own heavenly imprint that God put in us, Ken. Look at our fingerprint, Ken. Look at it. That fingerprint is like none other in the
That's
world.
right.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
Why do we do fingerprints?
Incredible.
But the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, he wanted to imprint our own unique little finger to say, I want to make you wonderfully and awesomely made.
Yeah, that's
right?
right. And he has. That's right.
And so that's really what matters, right? I started realizing it's not about how much money I have. It's not about what things I'm going to give my kid. It's what I'm imparting to them that matters.
That's right.
And they matter.
Sure. And the values that you've lived by, and that your mom lived by, and your dad lived by, and your grandparents, those values, they're not going to automatically transfer if we don't model them, first of all, in our lives, and then also express them to our kids and our grandkids. They're not going to pick that up just on their own. No. Somewhere along the line, we've got to let them know these things are important to us, right and wrong. I mean, in the day and age in which we live, even values like that, right and wrong, are so blurred by our culture, by the universities, by our politicians. Never mind. They're all blurred. Where are the kids going to learn those things if they can't look at you and me, Kenny? One of the cool things I discovered not too long ago in a book I was reading, which really struck me, and said, the thing that we think is most important is that the kids can look at mom and dad, and that's true. But the thing they're finding, that the kids who are sticking with the church nowadays, who are continuing to go to church, because so many kids are not anymore.
That's right.
But the kids who are staying there, they're saying, why are you still here? And here's what they said. Not that they saw something in mom and dad, as important as that is. I saw something in grandma and grandpa. They have lived the way they say, and I want to be that kind of person.
Wow.
Whoa, man. I want to do that for my kids. I want to do that for my grandkids.
Absolutely. Yeah. So Ken, as we're looking at this, you've been a writer. What is it that is important, that you feel like it mattered to you to want to get into writing, and you look back over your years of writing and that many books, hundreds of books, something has motivated you to find that that's what God called you to do.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
When did you find that? And it's almost like your gift has made room for itself. That thing.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
And you have an imprint. I mean, you've written all these books. They're gonna, when me and you are gone, our stories and your book will remain.
Continue, yes.
And that's a gift. God used His Word, obviously, to breathe, after His passing and the resurrection. Sure. So obviously, writing is an important thing. So what is it that has made you tick as a human being to say, I want to write?
Thank you, Kenny. I appreciate it. One of the things, Jesus told stories, and even in the Old Testament, we see the things that impress us the most in the Old Testament are those stories of Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and all those great stories in the Old Testament. And even if you're not even like a real Bible scholar, but you like war, there are a bunch of war stories in the Bible. You can go back here and say, "Wow, man, These guys were amazing. So I love telling stories, and as a kid, I loved telling stories. I started to write when I was about 8 years of age, but I was obviously my dad, as I mentioned, you and I have talked about it a number of times. He owned the bar, so I would go with my dad to go to work at 5 o'clock in the morning to get ready to open at 7 o'clock. Now, the bar that my dad owned was not a fancy lounge or anything like that. It was a coal miner's bar. Coal miners and factory workers. They're going to work. The coal miners were going out either to the mines at 7 o'clock in the morning or coming in at 7 o'clock in the morning. My dad opened at 7. I'd go to work with him at 5. We would have the place ready to go by 7. So these guys are coming in. They're filthy dirty, some of them. And of course, a lot of them are going out to the mines, which is really scary when you think they're going to get a shot in a beer before they go out to the mines. But then they would. But they would come in and would line up at the bar. They didn't come to get drunk. They came to tell stories. So I would literally sit behind the bar. Back in those days, you could do that. My dad would allow me to sit back there, and I would write down some of their stories. And it was just so cool. I mean, I can still remember some of the names. Yeah, Patsy Porto and VC Bianco and Mike Keppins, Wycliffe Jim.
Movie names.
Oh, yeah. They're great stories, all these guys, So I wanted to write, and I did. And when I first started out writing, I wanted to be a voice. I wanted to tell my story, which I did, and to tell people the truth about God and all these kind of things, which I did. I wrote 9 books of my own. But then I discovered at some point in my career early on that I enjoyed telling other people's stories even more than my own.
Mm.
And one of the first ones I told was a guy by the name of Gary Carter, which is a professional baseball player for the New York Mets and Montreal Expos and Hall of Fame baseball player. And Gary and I did a book called The Gamer. It was great fun for me. I got to go to all these baseball games. I got to hang out at the stadium, in the clubhouse. Man, this is a kid's dream, So I just discovered I enjoyed telling other people's stories even more than I did my own. And I did that for a lot of years, still do that. And that's what I'm best known for.
Yeah.
But the big thing is I found that stories have a power that sermons don't without. I mean, we can be didactic, we can be very emphatic and teach truth and truth and truth, and it just goes right over people's heads. They miss it. But you tell them a story that touches their heart, and that can change their life. And they need the truth, and we want to do that. But to illustrate that truth through a story, that's the gift that God has given to me. Now, part of the gift He's given to me has been able to work with people who have an audience around the world. A lot of people don't know my name, so I get to write and live vicariously through these other people and tell their stories. And one of the coolest things for me is I'll be sitting at home
you actually get paid for it.
Yeah, that's right. And I'll hear somebody coming on. They're doing an interview about a book we wrote together, and they couch their statement in a way that I wrote for them, and they're using words that I put into their heart and their mind and their mouth, and there they are telling the whole world. So for me, that's a big trip. But I find that we all have stories. I mean, you've told some great stories in your book about your family and yourself. We all have a story that we need to share with our kids, with our grandkids.
Why don't we?
I think a lot of people think it's insignificant.
Yeah.
And one of the stories that I wrote that about with somebody else whose story touched the world, she didn't think she had a significant enough story. I'm talking about Lisa Beamer. Most people didn't know Lisa Beamer at the time, but her husband was a guy by the name of Todd Beamer, who was on Flight 93 on 9/11. And he was the guy who said those words that have touched the world. Let's roll. Let's roll. And they brought down that plane in Shanksville, Pennsylvania.
Still puts goosebumps.
Oh, me too.
Wow.
That plane was headed for Washington, D.C. It was going to hit either the Capitol or the White House, one of those two buildings. We already knew.
He literally saved in that group of
so much.
Men and women.
Yeah,
literally saved.
We are so indebted to them. But Lisa, his wife, and they were a wonderful couple, young couple in early 30s. She said, Ken, nobody's going to want to hear my story. I said, Lisa, let me tell you, believe, yeah, you're right. I said, I guarantee you they will want to hear your story. And it was a privilege for me to work with her. We sat literally in Todd's office. He was a big Chicago Bulls fan, had Michael Jordan on the wall. The office was just like your office here. It was exactly as it was on 9/11, the day he took that flight out of Newark Airport.
She wanted to keep it.
It was still the same. We started on the book there, right after the first of the year. And she had just had a baby. She was pregnant on 9/11. She had just had a brand new baby. So we started working on the book in Todd's office. It had not even moved. The papers, everything was still the same. Everything were exactly as it. The only reason he came home that night, they had been on vacation in Italy the week before, he and Lisa had been on vacation. They came home because he wanted to see his kids. He worked for Oracle, a software company, and he had to go to California to headquarters the next morning. So he was taking a flight out of Newark Airport from gate number 17 at Newark International Airport. But he thought if he just got home for a couple of hours, he could see his kids that night and then head out early in the morning. So he did. Lisa did not even talk to him that morning. He just kind of ruffled her hair as he left, kissed her as he left, and went out the back steps and headed out on what he thought was just going to be a routine flight. It wasn't routine. Nothing was routine that day. No. But her story has impacted the world. And she didn't think she had the right to tell it. She didn't think she had anything to say. Yeah. She did. And it has blessed all of us. Wow. There are so many stories like that we think, well, my story is not significant. It may seem so ordinary to you. To you, I mean. Or normal to you. Or, okay, I've heard that story. Grandpa told me that story for years and years. But it might be a blessing to somebody else if you can put that story out there.
And it doesn't have to impact the whole world, but it can impact the world God wants you to impact.
That's so important. That's right.
Maybe it's your business. Maybe it's, in sports. Maybe it's in music. But
we only say that if we just impact one person, it'll be worth it. Yeah. But do we really do that? It does matter. Yeah. That story can change somebody's life. I've had the privilege of working with some stories of a lot of people whose lives have been changed, and then God uses them to change somebody else's life. But any story like that, where there is some kind of transformation, or even if it's not transformation, even if it's just saying, okay, these things have worked for our family. Yeah. These have given us meaning.
It's so funny on my this book, Living Your Life Imprint. I had invited all my friends, all my family to a book signing. It ended up being not a book signing in a way. I mean, it did, but it didn't. And I'll tell you why. Everybody thought they had to, push me, put me up. I was interviewing people that had imprinted my life. And instead of trying to turn the trail on me, I had to stop 3 or 4 and go, no, this is about you imprinting my life.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
And, why don't we, talk about our mentors, our fathers, our mothers, people who have imprinted, on our life, something that has lasted. And in my father's case, who passed away last year, something that will live beyond my own lifetime, because I'm living out, many things that he poured into my own life.
That's right. And I really think we have a responsibility for that, Kenny. I don't think it's just something optional. People say, well, I don't want to tell my story. I'm kind of shy. I'm bashful. Yeah. But what God has poured into you, you have a responsibility to share with somebody else. The things you learned from your dad, the things you have learned from your mom and are still learning, and the things I learned from my mom. Those are important to pass on to our kids, to the next generation, and other people may find value in them as well. Yeah. And you never know what's going to touch somebody's life.
That's interesting that you, as an author and a writer, you find people minimize their story.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And you have to dig, probably, right?
Many times. One of the stories I told was with Scott Waddell. It's kind of a story you don't hear a lot about nowadays, but it was one of the first big deals when George W. Bush became president. One of the first major news stories was when this guy in Hawaii brought up his submarine. He was a nuclear submarine commander, and he brought up a submarine underneath a Japanese fishing boat, killed 9 Japanese, they said students. They weren't like high school students. They were college age and above. But still, 9 people died because he brought his submarine up under a Japanese fishing boat.
By mistake.
By mistake, yeah. He was looking at Waikiki Beach, looking through the periscope, and the sun was shining. He didn't see the boat out there. His sonar guy said, Captain, there's something there. Commander, there's something there. But Scott didn't see it. And so the sonar guy literally changed the coordinates on his scope, and they dove, and then they did what they call an emergency blow, where they flip a lever and the submarine shoots through the water. It is what they call an emergency situation. They would do that if there was some tragic thing going on in the boat. And unfortunately, when they came up, there was a Japanese fishing boat, boom, right there. It hit that thing and destroyed that boat, and 9 people died. Well, Scott was the commander of that ship, and he took responsibility, saying, it was my fault. The sonar guy shouldn't have changed the coordinates, but it was my fault. I'm the commander. A lot of people say I take responsibility. People say that all the time. Oh, well, I take responsibility, but they don't. Scott did.
Yeah.
And then as a result, they drummed him out of the Navy. Yeah. But he was a nuclear commander. So trying to get him to tell that story was very difficult.
Mm-hmm.
And the book probably would have failed had I not had the opportunity to talk to his wife, because it was his wife that told me what it was like for their 13-year-old daughter to go back to school. They lived at Pearl Harbor. They lived at Ford Island on Pearl Harbor. If you've ever visited Hawaii, gone to Pearl Harbor, and
Yeah.
you go to the Arizona Memorial, if you look right across from the Arizona Memorial, it's Ford Island. That's where they lived.
Wow.
Yeah, he was a commander in the Navy, a nuclear commander, and they drummed him out of the Navy. His wife told me what it was like for their 13-year-old daughter to go back to school, and the kids are making fun. Your daddy wrecked a nuclear submarine. Your dad, and how that devastated their 13-year-old daughter, and how the people that were their friends, I think they wouldn't have anything to do with it. Well, Scott was very, very protective. And it took a long time for us to get through that protection. And he still would not give away any secrets. He was a military guy. He was not going to give away any secrets, that's for sure. But he finally got to the place where he was willing to tell that story of doing the right thing, even though it cost him. And it did. It cost him his naval career, but he did the right thing.
Well, these episodes, as you can see, how exciting they're going to be. On Thursdays, we'll be showing you at 3:30. We podcast in Central Time. I'm sorry. Yeah, and then on Eastern Time, of course, it's an hour ahead. But these are the kind of things that we are so excited about, because where would you get this kind of information? Pull this guy out of the basement, where he's writing all these books, to kind of give us really just such a deep glimpse of why your life matters and things that matter. And we spend so much time on things that don't matter, Ken. And to me, this is time. It's going to be on Spotify. And so get it on there, or YouTube. You can go there. You get it live from. You'll see us. Bantering back and forth here. Talking about the importance of leading something that matters. And I tell you, the more I realize this was a God-given gift, not only to me but my family and my friends, because I want them to realize, like Ken's made an impact on my life. He's made an impact on so many people. But if we never sit time and energy of learning and listening from each other, then we're missing a really golden treasure. And these are treasures that I believe God wants us to put in our heart, put in our life, and realize I made you for purpose and I made you for meaning, right? God made us to not only live a prosperous life and our be successful, whatever that definition is, but to spread the good news about Jesus.
Oh yeah.
In a very important way. And for me, it was a counselor, for many years. But I realized, I even though I'm done with counseling, I need to expand my horizons, because I have something to say, maybe for the first time.
And now is that time, Ken.
Yeah.
Now is the time.
Too many funerals, Ken.
Right.
Too many. You know this.
Yes, exactly.
Too many funerals where we're getting to know the story.
After COVID.
Why do we wait for so long when we have a story to tell?
That's right.
And it can impact so many people? I mean, I've done some funerals. I'm thinking, I wish I would have known this.
Oh boy,
20 or 25 years ago about
That's
my
right.
friend.
We've all lost
They asked me to do a
good
funeral.
friends.
Yeah.
But even more, it's always the time. Now is the time. I have a friend who literally sends his kids videos of things he thinks are important. He'll send on his phone. He'll take a couple minutes and send his child a video of something. Hey, I saw this today. I just want to tell you about this, because someday he's not going to be here to tell his son that.
Yeah.
We tried with my mom before she got too bad with dementia. We tried to interview her on video, and it was too late. We tried with our pastor, our beloved pastor that helped us in so many ways, both of us.
Yeah.
with his sons. I sat down with him and another fellow, and we tried to video and record some of the stories from his ministry of more than 50 years in Nashville, Tennessee. And we discovered that we were just going around in circles. It was too late. We should have done that
Mm,
years ago.
yeah.
We should have done it while we had the opportunity.
Yeah.
Now is the time.
Yeah.
When you have that opportunity to share these things with your kids, share those things that matter. You gave some great tips in your book about how you can do that, and just to share with your kids and your grandkids those things that have shaped your life.
Yeah.
One of the things that I find that we're really reluctant to tell our kids about and our grandkids, but it's just so important, is how we met Jesus.
Mm.
A lot of us have never taken the time to tell our children, have never taken the time to tell our grandkids
so important.
how I came to know the Lord.
Yeah.
We want them to go to church with us. We want them to live godly lives.
Yeah.
We've never told them how we met Jesus.
Oh, wow. This is rich. You know, I loved our last session that we did together this last episode, but I'm just so impacted by hearing Ken share his heart about how he's helping other people, and it's helping other people. Once he hears their story, he can actually then make that into a book, and then people are changed. Their lives are often changed by reading a book. And there's no greater book, obviously, than the Bible.
Right.
We totally agree on that. But he makes every story unique. And,
That's right.
And he would not give us a little fingerprint if he didn't think we were of value.
And they're worth telling those stories. Those stories are worth telling.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm just really pumped, and I cannot get over Ken, what he's done in his life. And, I'm sure, there's probably sometimes he's on page 152. What am I doing?
Oh, yeah.
But it is.
That's a great point, Kenny, because it takes work to do what you did. It takes work to do what I do every day.
Oh, wow.
Anybody that went to kindergarten can write a book. Okay, if you know basic writing, basic English grammar, you can write a book. And nowadays, you don't even need to be a very good grammar student, but that's beside the point. But it takes time.
Yeah.
What you did with your book, I remember it took a long time for you to get that book the way you wanted it, so you could.
And I wasn't going to be satisfied until maybe I get that pull up from my cousin Landy.
Yeah.
But okay, so tell me, when you stop and think about your life, we know you've made a huge imprint in your books that you've been sharing across the country and the world. But you personally, you have some legacy imprints you want to leave on your from your personal life. I mean, you're very well known, like I said, for your writing books, but there's other things that I sense in you that you share at church still. You have a class.
Yeah.
That means a lot to you.
It must. Yeah.
It must.
I've been doing it for 20 years. They still put up with me. And and I work on that. I mean, I would not dare get up in front of that group because it's a large class. We at one time we had as many as 300 in that class.
Yeah.
We've kind of cut it down now, and
COVID didn't help.
COVID didn't help us at all. That's right. So now we're probably about 130 or so at the most, but still it's a good sized class. That was a big church where I grew up.
That was a church.
Yes, yeah, that's for sure. But but I would not dare stand up in front of that group and just wing it and just say, well, I'm going to talk about the Bible. No, I study and I prepare and I work and I write out notes and that sort of thing. I've been doing that for 20 years.
Yeah.
But it's important to me because, and it's important from two standpoints. Some people say, well, you just want to sell your books. I never mentioned about selling books in the class unless somebody that I wrote with is in there and they're sharing their testimony or something like that.
Yeah.
We'll make the books available. Basically, I don't want anybody to confuse the fact that this is important to me from my heart. Has nothing to do with selling books.
Yeah.
This is what I believe.
Mm-hmm.
This is what I want you to know that I believe. And so I've been doing it for a lot of years, and probably will do it until I can't do it anymore, or the Lord says go do something else. But it's important to me,
sure.
And because it's telling those stories, those tried and true stories. I don't think I've come up with any new revelations or anything like that. I'm just three things. Number one, what does the Bible say? Number two, what did it mean to those fellows and women back there who first heard those stories? And number three, how does that work in my life today?
Yeah,
I figure if we get those three things, man, that's something.
that's powerful.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
for sure.
Well, this book, by the way, it's a donation. We decided, as an organization, my son and I, we care for veterans, we care for seniors, we care for people that are, have a motorcycle accident, Ken, and we 24/7 we're caring for these
Great.
folks. And
That's
so
great.
these books go to contribute. So if you contribute a donation, I'll sign the book and I'll send it to you. We ask for, whatever like God lays on your heart, but the book. If I just give it away, then I'm in the hole. So, but the bottom line is when you contribute, yeah, you're contributing to someone's care more than anything. But we want to cover our costs, and so if people give 20, 30, 40 bucks, whatever, you're helping not only feed somebody, but I'm going to send this book and I'm going to give it to you because I think that what Ken is talking about is all through this book. Why don't you take some time
Mm-hmm.
and chronologize what's important in your life
Mm-hmm.
and what you want to leave
Yes.
when you leave this earth?
That's right.
Because you don't get a do-over
Mm-hmm.
on this side of glory. We're all looking for the new suit that God's going to eventually give us, but in the meantime, we're living.
Mm-hmm.
And what are we doing with that life? And so you have some personal goals too, and ambitions for your own family.
Sure.
You and I, we get to go and hang out on a cruise every now and then with
Yeah,
our
you
wives.
betcha. Yeah,
Our wives
enjoy
want
it.
to go, but you have a family and an extended family, and what do you want them to know about your life? Since we're talking about leaving something that matters, what do you want?
Two things I think are important to me, Kenny. Number one, that my kids and my grandkids and our extended family members as well, but especially our nuclear family, that they know that I was real, that I was real. I messed up sometimes. There were times when I said the wrong thing, did the wrong thing, made a mistake, took a wrong turn.
Amen.
And, I want them to know that it's okay to do that because they're going to make some mistakes probably as well.
Yeah.
And sometimes we give this impression like, well, we're so holy, we're so whatever, that we've never messed up. Well, we've all messed up. The Bible says we've all, fallen short of the glory of God. I surely have. It's, that word in the
What
Greek.
time of the week?
Yeah, that's right. And that word, we're talking about, we've all fallen short. It's kind of like you're aiming an arrow, and that's what the word sin basically means in the New Testament. Armartia in the Greek, Harmartia. It's like you're shooting an arrow and you missed, you drop short. That's what it means. We've all done that. It's like, okay, I'm going to start from London and I'm going to swim to New York. Okay, good luck with that. You may get outside a little bit, but we're all going to fall short. That's what the Bible's talking about. I have fallen short. You have. We've all fallen
absolutely.
short. I want my kids to know that. And it's okay because the Lord is the one who picks us back up. He's the one that forgives us. He's the one that gets us back on the track. And so I want my family to know that I was real. The second thing is I want them to be able to look at me and say, okay, yeah, he was real, but he really loved Jesus. When I want to know what a godly man or a godly woman is, I want them to be able to look at me and say, yeah, that's what it really means to be a godly person. If I'm, as we've said, if we're totally wealthy and we have all kinds of millions of dollars, but they can't look at us and see that that's what it means to be a godly person, we have failed.
Yeah.
If we get the acclaim of the world, if I have another New York Times bestseller, you do, so what? Okay, that's great. But if they can't look at us and say, you know what? That's my father. That's my grandfather. That's what it means to love God. That's what it means to live the way God wants us to live. If we don't do that, we are failing the next generation.
Wow.
And let's be honest, right now, many American Christians are doing just that. We are failing the next generation because we're not showing them what it means to live with integrity. We're not showing them what it means to live with honesty.
Yep.
We're not showing them what it means to live with the power of God
Yep.
or the joy of the Lord that is our strength.
Yeah.
We're doing all these other things, but we're missing those things that are most essential.
Well, I've known you for a lot of years, and the word, one of those first words is integrity. And you're right. We're not perfect. We fail, but it's not. If we failed, it's we look at the grace of God and get up and realize His mercies endure forever.
Yeah, hallelujah.
And every day, that's the God I believe we serve.
Mm-hmm.
Is He gives us another chance.
That's right.
To say, when he said really meant that. How many times do we gotta forgive
Forgiveness.
our brother?
That's right. Yeah.
And
Not
he
only
gave
our brother.
that.
How many times do I need to go back to God and say, Lord, please forgive me?
Yeah,
We all need that.
yeah.
And
The broken contractness. Yeah.
you've worked with people, you've counseled people that they want to blame everybody else. They want to blame the circumstances. They want to blame my parents. They want to blame poor potty training or something, for
Yeah.
their troubles. No, taking responsibility, our own accountability, and saying, okay, I have messed up. I have fallen short. I've made mistakes. I've sinned. We don't even use that word anymore, but it's real.
Yeah.
God, please forgive me.
Yeah.
Help me. Get me back on the right track. And the marvelous thing is, He does.
He does. He does. And I'll close in this. One of the things in writing the book, and this is just something that through COVID, I had a really rough time. I won't go into that today, but I will just say I realize how busy I am in my life, and with my kids and my grandkids. My greatest indelible imprint I want to make is that I was present. I wasn't always
That's
that
right.
way, Ken.
Yeah.
I wasn't. I was very busy as a business person and trying to measure those goals and objectives. But I really do believe, the most important golden opportunities I have is to hold my grandbaby like yesterday.
Yeah.
And to be with my son, where I'm speaking in his life and he's going to take over, but whatever time I have left on this earth, I want it to matter.
That's right.
And I want them to know that they knew their grandpa. They knew their dad. My dad never got a chance to know his dad. Really, he left at 9 years old.
Sure.
And so I thank my dad for that imprint. That he didn't leave our family.
That's true. And you and I are somewhere near the same age. I'm a little older than you, but my dad came from a generation that they didn't do that. That was the women's responsibility.
Giving and nurturing.
Yeah, you see the results of that. That didn't work out so well. Yeah. No, but now we know, kids need dad's presence.
Yeah.
The absentee father is one of the reasons we have so many kids who are hooked on drugs, so many kids who are involved in crime. The absentee father in our society is reaping a whirlwind.
We're seeing that every day.
Absolutely. Yeah. So we've got to be there, and we've got to be the kind of people that they can look at and say, yeah, that's what it means.
I could go on and on with Mr. Ken Abraham. He is, just a jewel in my life, a treasure, and he's spoken to so many people's lives. And so, Ken, we're honored to have you. Thank you for pouring out your heart, and you've left that imprint here already, with people that are searching for significance and intimacy in their life, and you've given them some ways to do that. So, God bless y'all. We will see you next episode. And again, on Thursdays, 3:30, check us out and on YouTube, and spread the word. It's starting to happen. Love y'all. Have a good night.
Hey guys, thanks so much for watching the show. If you guys have any questions, or if you would like to donate and receive the book, please head on over to kennymauck.org/show. Here you can ask us any questions that you might have, as well as make a donation. Thank you so much for watching.